Hello and thanks for joining me. This is 1 in 20 D&D and I'm Gregory. I appreciate you stopping by tonight. This is going to be a recap of session 2 in the VÄRLDEN Reach, which is a campaign setting that I've recently started with the bearded bugbear as the DM and some incredibly awesome players. We had a blast this past weekend, and man, I cannot wait for tomorrow night. So I'm trying to kind of like wrap my head around what happened last week and do a quick summary before we get into it. This is kind of take two. I did one that was really long-winded and unnecessarily so. So I'm going to try to condense everything down and just get to the real high points of what happened. So when we started the session, we were standing in the woods looking at a cave entrance with some gnolls, four gnolls kind of standing guard outside. We decided we were going to attack. We kind of spread out through the woods and very sneakily got up to them and just launched our attack. Handled them. There were two more brutes that came out of the woods and a seventh who was even bigger and badder than the first two additions. So a total of 7 gnolls. Handled them in short order. Now in that fight, one of the things that did happen was I actually, and I'm going to say as a caveat, if I say I or me, I'm generally meaning my character Jermaine, so forgive me for that silly idiosyncratic affectation. I mean Jermaine. So anyway, I cast Shatter at one point during the combat, and it hit 2 of the gnolls. It took one down and injured another. And after the combat, Lily, our cleric, noticed that one of these worms that we had found we had been able to remove from the kids through the use of lesser restoration crawled out of the ear of one of the gnolls. So we think that maybe whatever's controlling these kids is also controlling the gnolls. So we take care of the gnolls, search them. They don't really have anything, so we go ahead and proceed into the cave, which kind of winds down and twists around and down deeper into this cave or cavern. And we find a chamber that's fairly well lit. There's torches and stuff on the walls, and there are 2 gnolls kind of at the back on the other side of the entrance digging deeper into this cave system, and there are 4 gnolls off to the side sleeping. We also saw a raised kind of pool of waters kind of where they were digging in the back. So we're trying to coordinate a plan, and Alina decides she's just going to go ahead and jump in and get right into the fray. So she attacks the gnolls at the back of the cave, and we're all like, oh crap, so we had to deal with it. So we run in and do what we can to handle these gnolls. Now, at the same time, there was at the back of the cave, while we're fighting the gnolls, we heard this rumbling going on. One thing I forgot to mention, I guess, is that the first fight with the gnolls outside the cave, Jermaine introduced his familiar, who is an owl named Benny, to the party, and we had Benny in the cave with us as well. And we deal with these gnolls, and then all of a sudden, in the back of the cave where the gnolls were digging, this huge worm comes out of the wall, smashes through the wall. It's got this hideous head, and it's got these tentacles coming out of its mouth. Now, we combated this worm, and it was a harrowing fight. We actually had 2. So Perdita and Ku and a bunch of us actually got hit by its breath weapon and devastated by it. And actually, it hit us twice with this breath weapon, and at one point, Perdita got down to 1 hit point, so she was on death's door, and Ku actually was knocked unconscious. And Jermaine actually healed Ku to bring him back into the fight, so to speak, or bring her. I keep doing that. I apologize. To bring her back into the fight, and I'm only mentioning that because it comes into play later on in the session. So we had this incredible fight, culminating with Titus taking his spear, like launching himself up onto the top of this worm and driving it down into the brain of the sucker and dealing the final blow. Now we kind of all like caught our breath, and during the fight we saw this amazing moment of Marana, our ranger, who is an Ismar. She like floated up off the floor with her like these like angelic wings sprouting behind her, and she's like starts glowing, and it was an unbelievable moment, and we all had witnessed for the first time in this combat. So it was a really intense fight. And after Titus took care of the worm, we're all like, all right, now what are we going to do? We kind of investigated the pool, and it turned out that there were little worms, these same little worms that we've been seeing everywhere in this pool, which is, we're like, oh, ew, yuck. So how do we deal with that? So we managed to, Titus had used some of his power and his sword and kind of like froze the water, or at least the surface of the water, but turn the water a cold enough temperature to what we believe kill these worms. And we like used fire to burn all the bodies, and we caved in some of this cavern to make sure that nobody could get back in here again, and hopefully nothing could get out if it somehow survived. So after we did that, we decided we're going to head back to town and back to the orphanage to let them know, hey, we think we've taken care of the problem. While we're on our way back to the orphanage, Marana kind of like got in Jermaine's path, in my path, and stopped me. And she said, what do you want? She's like confronting me, and I'm like, well, I started joking with her, and like, oh, I'm kind of hungry, I want something to eat, and that kind of thing. And anywho, it was really fun, and we had this amazing interchange. So I got more sincere, of course, and said, I want you to be my friend. And I said, I want you to get my back, and I'll get yours. And then I'm kind of like, I'm gonna walk away, and she kind of gets in front of me again, and she's like, I don't have friends. So what do you really want? I don't have friends. And it was, I'm paraphrasing what happened, but I very sincerely just said, I think what happened is she got in front of me and said, what do you want? And I kind of joked at first, and then I said, hey, I just want you to cover my back, like like I will cover yours. And I thought, well, I asked her, what do I want? Like, well, that's a really serious question. I got to think about that. And you said, well, I want you to be my friend. I said, I'm gonna look after. I said, oh, you must mean like I want something in exchange for helping Ku. And I'm like, well, Ku is part of, he's part of the group. He's defending me just like I'm defending you, and we're all kind of looking out for each other. So I'm going to fight for him just like I'm going to fight for anyone else. And I hope you would do the same. And I want you to be my friend. And so she said, of course, she said, I don't have friends. And so I said, well, we'll see about that. And I kind of walked off. So that was awesome. It was a really incredible interchange between our two characters. And then, so we got back to town. We talked to Yelena at the orphanage, and Perdita and Titus, they just went straight to the bar. And the rest of us went to talk to Yelena at the orphanage. And so Lily decided she was going to stay overnight and help the kids first thing in the morning. And I said, you know what, I'll stay too. And so the others went back to the inn. I asked Lily if she wanted something to eat. So I went to the inn to get some food. By the time we got there, Perdita was kind of already pretty drunk. And so I offered to help with the book and send a message in our magic book back to the Vactaire. And, I left, and I went and talked to, Germaine left and went and talked to the head of the militia, the blacksmith, and said, hey, we think we've taken care of the problem, but please, patrol the north side of the town in the forest and just keep an eye on things, do a little extra just to make sure things are okay for a while. And then I went back and kind of teased and joked around with Lily a little bit, and she did some minor illusions, and I started playing some music, and we just had a fun kind of light evening and went to bed. While that was happening, now we don't know some of this stuff is player knowledge versus character knowledge, so Jermaine doesn't know this, but Gregory does. So while the group of us was talking to Yelena the first time, Marana actually went up to the girls' dormitory room and kind of sat on the bed with Ku sitting next to her and had this kind of moment of reflection or something. So it was really interesting. Then then later in this evening, when everyone is in the inn, Alina kind of dragged, I say it loosely, but asked Marana to kind of like come away from the other group, or from the crowd, so to speak. And the two of them, these two women, had a conversation, and we're not really sure exactly what happened. It seemed like they were kind of making some progress, and maybe they have a history, and they seem to know a little bit about each other's past without getting too much into any kind of details. So it was really interesting to hear what happened with them. And then everybody decides to go to sleep. First thing in the morning, Lily and I kind of deal with the last 3 kids that needed to be healed. We take care of that, head back to the inn. When people are starting to wake up, there's a woman in the inn kind of waiting for us, and when Perdita comes down from upstairs, she approaches Perdita and says hi, and she introduces herself as the mayor of Vilsen, the town we're in, and her name is Denya Cade, and she wants to talk to our group. Well, Perdita said, hey, the whole group's not here, maybe we can meet you later at lunchtime or something. So Lily and I got back to the inn. I kind of excused myself so I could go and cast my ritual to bring Benny back from the dead, because he got killed by the worm, sadly. And thank goodness we're not playing like Advanced Dungeons & Dragons or Second Edition or something like that, where when your familiar gets killed, you suffer like a half your hit point loss kind of deal. And wow, that would have sucked. So I brought Benny back, so he's available when I need to call on him. And while I was doing that, and the others were kind of having breakfast and just doing their thing, Alina kind of slipped away from the group, and Marana saw her but decided not to follow her. So Alina went back and talked to Yelena again, the mistress of the orphanage, and basically said, like, how do you, what do you do about getting these kids adopted? What kind of like screening do you do, or that? And so they had this interesting dialogue, and basically Alina left with the kind of message, the admonition of like, you better screen these parents a whole lot better, and so of course Yelena is already feeling miserable, but she's like promising she's going to be better, she's going to do better, etc. So the group goes and we reconnect, everybody gets back together, we kind of peel Titus off the bar, and we all go to talk to the mayor of the town. Well, she tells us that her husband has been periodically taking these short trips, maybe a week long or so, to visit his old friend. Her husband is Janus Flintdew. He's been visiting this old friend of his in Orison named Dorn Hornbar. Well, apparently he's been gone for like 2 or 3 weeks, and she doesn't know where he is and why he's not back yet. And coincidentally, there's also 2,000 gold missing from the treasury of the town. Would we go and try to find him, and please find the gold too? So our mercenary friend, Sergeant Titus, is like, well, I'm not doing anything for free. And the rest of the group was kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess. I played Jermaine as like very reluctant, like, why would we do this? Like, this is kind of outside of our milieu. This is out of our edict. Yeah, we're supposed to be protectors of the realm, but I mean, this is like, your husband's gone a little bit and some money's missing. I didn't see how is this like saving the realm or something. So for me, I just played it that way. But since the rest of the party was like, yeah, we should do this, he decided to go along with the group. So we left town. We kind of got some provisions. We camped out at the same camp where we had been ambushed the first night on our way, the night before we got to Vilsen. Camped out there, and then made our way to Orison, which kind of where we left off. We got there at night, and that's where we're going to pick up this weekend. And so here's what I took from this episode. First and foremost, it was an amazing, amazing bit of character development. Okay, aside from some real fun combat, which I always love, of course, there was some incredible character development from almost everyone in the party, really. Now, what I really loved, of course, just me personally, Gregory, I had the best time when Marana and Jermaine, rather, I should say, were interacting. It was sincerely, it was one of the coolest moments I've experienced in all my years of playing D&D. It was like, it was intimate and intense and personal and exciting, and man, I really want to get to know these characters better, which is super cool. So I'm really excited about the next game. Everyone was awesome. Everybody's playing the roles that they're playing and the way they're portraying their characters. It started to come to the surface in this session. We got a little bit of a groove of like how we're gonna work together and things, which is kind of fun as far as combat goes. So this was a really excellent. This past weekend was a really excellent session. Again, our DM is phenomenal and just keeps rolling with the punches with all of us. And man, we just had a blast. I think everyone enjoyed it. So now, if you want to check this out, if you are interested in the live play of the actual game, I'm going to include links to that below this video, or in the information for this video. I encourage you to go check that out. Of course, we will be playing again this Saturday, so I'll do another recap next week, of course. And wow, just in the meantime, that was amazing. Thank you for spending a few minutes to listen to my quick little recap of the events of our adventure last weekend. Hey, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate the likes, the subscribes, all that. If you have comments or questions, feel free to ask. Let me know. That's what they're for. It helps me out, and I'm looking for some good conversations. So let's have some. Thank you, and I hope to again see you at a table someday. I look forward to maybe playing at a real table or at a virtual table with you. And of course, as I always say, keep rolling 20s.